Bugs and Morpheus 2.0 make their escape through a window, and that tells us that in this matrix, unlike the first matrix, we are in at a deeper level of the code. The first matrix showed us the importance of doors, door 303, door 101, and the wisdom of Morpheus quoted as saying, "I can only show you the door." The Resurrections matrix has windows and mirrors which guide us through the looking glass. The windows act as portals, and as we enter the first portal, we see the Fibonacci spiral created by the Resurrections code. This leads us to Neo's screen. Like the first matrix, we are introduced to Neo's screen before we meet him. Screens are windows into the mind of the users. Neo's screen shows he is looking at the matrix code. He is doing something that we do. In the Matrix trilogy, when we first see Neo, he is asleep. The first matrix answers the question, what is the matrix? The second matrix answers the question, how does the matrix work? The third matrix answers the question, how do we change the matrix? In the first movie, Neo wakes up to matrix reality to see the code that governs the world. In the second movie, he wakes up in the desert of the Real to see the systems of control that govern the world. In the third movie, he wakes up in limbo at the mobile train station, a sign of the journey he has to make to the source to bring about a change of the matrix. Finally, we meet Neo in the Resurrections matrix. We see he has aged, and with age, he has many screens. 7 screens, each one representing a version of the matrix. In the Resurrection matrix, we find Neo is awake. There is no more levels to the matrix for him to wake up to. His room is full of matrix artifacts, which triggers us to remember the journey of the One, which guide us to look into the mirror of the One, to know the One like we know ourselves, to see the One as a symbolic reduction of people like us, to understand the thoughts, words and actions and choices of the One, to see a part of ourselves reflected in the One, that question in nature, that feeling of something being wrong with the world. Neo's first words in the Resurrections matrix echo the words he said in the first matrix. Our thoughts on seeing him again after all this time echo his words in our minds. What the? How is he still alive? How is he back in the matrix? On one of Neo's screens is the word binary. This reminds us that all computer code is converted into binary in order for the hardware to process the code. We see another screen has matrix code, and as we look at the green code, we are reminded that in order for that code to work, it has to be translated into binary code. The matrix code on the screen connects to the code we have seen in the modal earlier. Neo walks deeper into the code. We see his shadow reflected on the building, the Anderson building, reminding us that his life in the first matrix began as the doubting son of man. We see that next to the Anderson sign is another sign which has multiple meanings. On the one hand, it is a message for those who love, for the sons of man who believe in love, but also it states that those who reject love can eat shite. Those who do not read the matrix code at a deeper level, they will take the sign at face value and think it means what it says. So here we are in the heart of the city and at the Anderson Hotel. Just a little bit ironic, don't you think? Neo injecting his code into the old Matrix code. We now understand that he built the model. And that brings to mind some interesting questions. How is he able to create a matrix within the matrix? We think back to when we first heard the idea of a matrix within the matrix. This brings us to understand what Lana is doing with the resurrection code, designing it in a way that it triggers memories within us. It feels like the resurrections is a model created for us, evolving us to remember the world of the matrix. We see the screen alarm trigger a feeling of panic in Neo, and that with these feelings triggered, his handlers are alerted and they enter his room to control the situation. The first to arrive on the scene in response to Neo's feeling of panic is Bobby. We ask ourselves, how did he know something was wrong? We are then introduced to Jude. Jude's words are designed to stir feelings within us, and we have to agree that any day one is alive is a great day to be alive. When Jude looks at Neo's screen, from his perspective, the matrix code appears to be rising. Something stirs within us, because we know the story we are watching is about the resurrection of the One. Neo's phone alerts him to an afternoon meeting. We understand his feelings about this, because he states he needs a coffee, a sign that he needs to wake from this reality. We think back to the words of Morpheus, "Have you ever had a dream that was so real?" And we think about how, in dreams, the mind has the ability to turn pure information into a dynamic, multidimensional reality.